Assalamualaikum and good day to Doctor and happy early Eid Mubarak. So we are from group 2. We are going to present about the food adulteration in raw milk. So what is the problem identification? The problem identification for this topic is the detection of food adulterants, which is melamine in raw milk that pose health risk for the consumers and the need for sensitive and accurate methods to ensure the milk safety. So the next slide is about the physical part. So moving on to the analytical part. So we're gonna start from Charles.
Hi there, I'm Teoh, or you can call me Charles. So in this section, I'll be talking about the method of detection of melamine in milk. So I would like to introduce you into two methods of detection that we are going to use. So the first one is the standard method, also known as the liquid chromatography mass spectrometry. And the second one is the simple visual screening. So let's move to standard method first. So we know standard methods is actually the most accurate methods to determine the melamine in milk. So, but it is also more costly compared with the visual screening, which will be more cost effective and easier to use. So these standard methods implement two ways of detection, which is the liquid chromatography and also mass spectrometry. These can identify the amount of melamine accurately. So to understand, to know this, how it works, we can have a look at this. The name suggests that there are two ways. The first is the liquid chromatography. Second one is the mass spectrometry, which means in this process of detection, there are two chemical processes. First is spectrum separation, correspond to liquid chromatography. Identification correspond to mass spectrometry. So in the separation, the sample is first injected into the chromatography, of course. So we know that different molecules have different chemical properties, so they travel at a different speed. Okay, so this can help to separate the melamine as they have different polarity with other compound or molecules in milk. So then, now we have it. The identification works with melamine ionized into charges. So based on their mass to charge ratio, we can know melamine is present in the milk. This is quite simple and quite widely used in most labs. Now let's move on to the next method, which is the visual screening. So the visual screening is actually one simple way to detect the melamine. So we can use the silver nanoparticles for this in this example. So it helps to quickly determine the melamine by how? By showing physical change. For example, they can change the color from yellow to red because they have some aggregation happen there. So this aggregation caused the change in color. So we can have a briefly looks at the mechanism of calorimetry detection. So melamines, basically they were born with the silver nanoparticles, and then these will trigger the aggregation, and then the reaction caused the color change, like what we mentioned earlier. So to understand why the color change from yellow to red, we can see the interaction between the melamine and nanoparticles. So look at the first equation. The silver actually react with this melamine and form a complex. So this complex is red in color. So when melamine is present, they have multiple nitrogen atoms that have lone pair. So this lone pair will allow the melamine to bind with the silver nanoparticles, and through the hydrogen bonding and electrostatic force in interaction, so this will cause the aggregation of the silver nanoparticles, so leading to a color change. So the serum nanoparticles are typically evenly distributed, so they give a yellow color. But when the melamine is added, they all become stick together, clump together. So that's why the intensity will increase. Their optical properties will change. So shift the color from yellow to red. Okay, so for second and third equation, okay, look at the second and third equation. For the second and third equation, we can see sodium citrate is involved here. So what's the role of sodium citrate in this case? So sodium citrate actually helps to control the stability of silver nanoparticles. So in this case, when melamine is present, it will actually disrupt the stability of silver nanoparticles. So this disruption will trigger the aggregation early. So it will help to detect the color changes. That's why sodium citrate is important in this case. Now let's move to the next section.
So let's move on about some of the downsides of visual methods for detecting melamine. So while calorimetric detection is very convenient, it's actually not the most sensitive method out there. Compared to advanced technique like LCM-SMS, it might miss very low levels of melamine, which means there's a risk of false negative. Another issue is sample preparation. If the milk is not handled properly before testing, you could actually end up with false positive or inaccurate results. That's because of some external factor like leftover proteins or fats. Yeah, it can actually mess with the detection process. So, speaking of milk composition, before testing, we actually need to remove fats and protein from the milk because they can actually interfere with the results. If these are not properly eliminated, the test might not give a clear picture of how much melamine is actually presented in the milk. And here's another important thing to consider. Different countries have different limits of how much melamine is allowed to be in the milk. So, a method that works in one place might not be enough for somewhere else. And this is why it's super important to standardize detection method to make sure the results are reliable and meaningful. Now, let's talk about how we can improve melamine detection in getting rid of interfering substances in milk like I mentioned just now, protein and fat. Yeah. One of the best ways to do is by pre-treating the milk to separate our fats and protein before testing. A common method is using trichloroacetic acid. It sounds fancy, but basically the acid will pull out all of the proteins from the milk. And then we can use centrifugation to separate the different layers, and it will leave us with a cleaner sample to test. But actually, calorimetric methods are not the only option. More advanced technique like high performance liquid chromatography (HPLC) and molecularly imprinted nanohybrids can help detect melamine with much higher accuracy. These methods are great actually at picking up even tiny amount of contamination. So why do we even bother with all of this? Well, if it is not well removed, like the protein and fat can actually interfere with the test and it will lead to inaccurate results. So when it comes to food safety, we cannot afford to take chances. That's why proper sample preparation is crucial in making sure melamine detection is reliable.
Next, we will look into the pre-treatment of milk. What is milk pre-treatment? It is referring to a process of modifying milk properties before further processing. This step helps optimize milk for dairy products like cheese and yogurt by improving the texture, stability, and yield. Common pre-treatment methods include heating filtration and enzyme addition, depending on the final product requirement. The purpose of milk treatment is to pre-treat milk and to manipulate its composition to achieve specific characteristics in the final dairy product. These include adjusting protein structure, fat distribution, and pH level to enhance production quality.
So moving on to the benefits of milk pre-treatment and also the common method of milk pre-treatment. So the first one is benefits of milk pre-treatment. We got 3 benefits here, which is the first one is improved cheese quality. So why cheese quality? Because the cheese itself is made from the milk, so it can enhance the texture, milk characteristics, and yield by modifying protein structure. The second one is enhance the stability. So heat treatment helps prevent separation or curdling in dairy products. And the last one is the reduced processing time. So some pre-treatment methods streamline production by optimizing milk composition for specific uses. So moving on to the common methods. So we got 5 common methods here, which is the first one is the heat treatment. So what is heat treatment? So the heat treatment is applying controlled heat to the partially denatured proteins. So it can improving the cheese curd formation. The second one is ultrafiltration, which is using membranes to remove certain components like whey proteins, concentrating milk solids for cheese making. And the third one is standardization, which is we adjusting the fat content by adding or removing cream to achieve the desired fat levels. And the fourth one is acidification, which is we lowering the pH to modify protein behavior and enhance the coagulations. And the last method is the enzyme addition. So we can adding the enzymes like rennet to break down casein proteins, which is essential for cheese production. And the last one, we move to the side effect.
Next, we move to side effect of melamine to consumer. Excessive amount of melamine consumed can lead to kidney problems, including kidney stones and kidney failure. The signs of melamine poisoning towards an individual include blood in urine, pain in the flank area, high blood pressure, irritability, little to no urine production due to the damage done towards the kidney, and the urgent need to urinate. And lastly, as a conclusion, the adulteration of raw milk, particularly with harmful substances like melamine, poses serious health risks to consumers. Effective detection methods such as liquid chromatography mass spectrometry and calorimetric screening using silver nanoparticles are crucial for ensuring food safety. While visual detection methods offer a quick solution, they are not as precise as laboratory-based techniques. Proper milk pre-treatment and interference elimination strategies help improve detection accuracy. Even the severe health effect of melamine, such as we previously discussed, including the kidney damage, strict regulation and rigorous testing protocols are essential to safeguard public health. I think that's all from us. Have a nice day, madam, and thank you.